I'm on charge after the festival tour. RIR benches in their protest wall.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Stand Up New York Labs. We are at the Stand Up New York Comedy Club. We are doing a video podcast. Our guest today is Charles C. Johnson, a very controversial newsman who runs the site gotnews.com. What's your Twitter?
At Chuck C. Johnson.
Chuck C. There's a lot of Charles Johnsons out there, so it gets confusing. But
Indeed.
He's at Chuck C. He appreciates when you use the C to help differentiate him from the others. And when people insult him, they often just call him Charles Johnson, and it's lost.
It is. It's too bad. And I also like that the Charles C. Johnson is a marketing executive in Michigan who has like 35 followers. And it's kind of tricky. But I became at Chuck, and Chuck is kind of my Boston name. It's when I grew up there, and Charles kind of became my professional name, and so now I'm kind of, both.
Do you want to just make the whole show about your name?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't. But
I feel like we barely scratched the surface.
Could be fun. I'm sure there's deep-seated psychological problems there.
I want to talk first about Garland because the show is called Free Speech, and this is finally I'm seeing those two words on the news. And last night I was just thinking, the New York Times obviously is taking the position that this is outrageous and it's hate speech, and hate speech is not free speech. And one of the things that entire group is saying is that there's a difference between free speech and speech that is an incitement to violence. And I'm just remembering the streets of New York a couple weeks ago, people marching down the streets screaming, "What do we want? Dead cops! When do we want it? Now!" And hours later, like 24 hours later, 2 cops get shot in the head.
Yeah.
Not white. They got the wrong race. But if that isn't an incitement to violence, what is? And by the way, I'm not saying that they should not be allowed to make that chant. But I just don't understand where the outrage was.
Yeah, when you go way back, Thomas Jefferson was talking about the distinctions between thoughts and actions and speech and actions, that speech is closer to thoughts. I don't know. It's the way I would look at it is, I know Pamela Geller, I think you do too, and I know Robert Spencer. I actually went to meet Robert Spencer for my 16th birthday, believe it or not.
Really?
That's how far back I go. And one of the editors from Yolande Postons, who were the first ones who did the Muhammad cartoons, was there. It was in the Boston area. Went with my then girlfriend, now psychotic ex, and we went and we just kind of like had to go through all this security, had to go through all this like crazy pat downs and everything. I was like,
To visit Spencer.
And I was like, damn, like this guy's cool, I was like, I wish I had something cool enough to say that people wanted to kill me, which was not the lesson that my mother wanted me to draw from that. But,
right? Yeah, you thought it was awesome.
But it's like she's kind of trolling for justice, Pamela Geller, and I think that we have way too many Muslims in this country. I've said as much.
3 million.
I think it's a really bad idea to bring people into your country that do cousin marriage.
Well, immigration has changed. Immigration used to be welcome to America, become American, and now it's welcome to America. Hate us all you want.
Yeah, fly your freak flag, cut our throats if you feel
We
so
suck.
compelled. So I'm not surprised though. The New York Times has always played this game of being for free speech until they're not. And what I'm surprised though is like the ACLU. They used to defend the rights of like neo-Nazis to go down and party it up in Skokie, Illinois. And now they're like, we're not so sure about this whole free speech thing. And of course the Muslims see that and they get more and more emboldened. But I think we're kind of missing the point. Like, how do we stop ISIS from coming here? We stop the Muslims from mass immigrating here. We've settled 50,000 Yemeni Americans since Obama was elected, or Yemeni in the United States since Obama was elected. Most famous Yemeni American is Anwar al-Awlaki, who was the head of Al-Qaeda. What are they doing here? They're like, when was the last time you heard of a Nobel Prize winner who was a Yemeni?
Well, there's a lot of disdain, especially with the poorer Muslims. They seem to be more extreme. The middle class and up tend to drink tea and listen to classical music. But you have these cab drivers refusing to take passengers. In Minneapolis, over the course of 4 years, there was about 6,000 passengers that were refused for having a dog or for having liquor in their luggage. They were getting asked, "Do you have liquor in your luggage?"
Yeah, it's like the if only we could get people pissed about that. They're pissed about the Christian baker who's like, "Oh, sorry guys, sorry fellas, or sorry ladies, I can't do your But people don't care.
Well, what they do is they morph it. So they change it, the narrative, obviously. So with the bakers were poor gays coming in hungry, saying, "Can I have some gruel, sir?" And the evil homophobic bakers say, "No, I hate gays. I'm not serving. We don't serve faggots in here." And the government going, "That's not our country. By the way, that should be legal. You just won't. You'll go bankrupt if you were that shitty."
Yeah, but won't that take care of the problem?
Right, exactly.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I don't want the laws even in getting involved in that extreme scenario. But that's not what happened. And with this Pamela Geller thing, it's like the way they've done it. And by the way, one of the reasons that this story can go so far off track is because the cartoons have been blacked out. If you could see these cartoons, they're really good. Like the one that won could be on the cover of a Superman comic. It's so good.
Yeah, Faustin, right, who does all the comics there. We should give him a shout out. I retweeted it. I sent it around. I want a T-shirt of it. I mean, fuck, I'd pay like $50 for it. It's awesome.
That would be ballsy.
Yeah, I went. So I was in Garland, Texas, actually, right after the shooting. I was actually in Texas at the time, and went over there, took some photos. They had this whole like caution tape set up, so there's like a wide thing. But I found kind of a way in to take closer photos. I just went behind the dumpster, and so it was kind of interesting seeing all the exploded parts, and the FBI was there. And
Exploded parts?
yeah, so they blew up the car.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah.
And I think there was another car too that was there, and they hadn't yet blown that up. And so I took some photos with my iPhone. And meanwhile, the CNN and Fox crew is like way down a ways, not getting any close-ups of the carnage. And it's kind of a crappy situation because, I mean, people should see this. Like, people should see like how non-offensive this whole process is, and how non-offensive the cartoons were. And by the way, they should also see how dumb the Muslims were, because frankly, like you see where they parked their car versus like where the actual run up to the event is.
Oh,
so
really?
They were going like Allahu Akbar as they were like running across the lot.
That was like in Canada, the guy at the Parliament buildings. He had to run
Yeah, it's like, dude, like
500 yards.
Do your strategic planning a little differently. I mean, there's a reason they call the expression the Texas Mile.
Well, I heard Anjem Chowdhury on Hannity this morning. It was from last night, and he said if you had seen these cartoons, how offensive they are. And we all just picture, Jesus with a fist up his ass, puking or something, the Muhammad version. But the cartoons aren't like that. They're very thoughtful pieces of art. And when we had the initial thing with the Dutch cartoons,
Danish,
ones, sorry, they had added offensive ones in there where they turned Muhammad into a pig.
And what's wrong with that?
But that wasn't even part of the thing. So
yeah,
so
they did
it's
that. They did
sort of
that
like
last time.
Palestinians. I mean, there's this fake outrage where the Palestinians have to be outraged. And the Saudis, Qatar, UAE could buy them all Ferraris, but they have to stay at the border screaming because that's their brand. And that's why Iran keeps sabotaging this deal with the nuclear energy.
People don't think about it like that, but you're right. I mean, there's a certain like being perpetually pissed, which is like the deal. Like if you're a Muslim.
Yeah, if we don't do any cartoons, they're out of work.
That's right.
But anyway, sorry, I'm off at a tangent here. And to get to Iran, they had that last minute deal where they said you have to, within 24 hours, remove all sanctions. Total impossibility. The government doesn't work like that. They were purposely torpedoing their nuclear energy deal because they can't make a deal with the great Satan, or everyone would hate them in the Muslim world. And similarly, these extremists have to be freaking out about cartoons, and the cartoons have to be outrageous, and they have to use the word provocative, or they're not oppressed.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the problem. We should be provoking them. Like this is our country. We live here. We like naughty jokes. We like violating taboos. We have enough taboos in this country as it is. We don't need to import people who give us new hang-ups. It's just a stupid policy.
Well, I resent the whole implication that provocative is one thing and non-provocative is another thing. Those words shouldn't be in a private meeting in a hall in Garland, Texas, with some foam core and 75 people getting together.
I mean, no, they should be out in the public square. People should see it for themselves. We should put it right in front of the New York Times building. Pictures of these cartoons, and let people see for themselves.
Yeah.
And people should stop being such pussies. I mean, this is the number one thing that you learn throughout all of history, is that if you if you behave like a pussy, you get more and more violence against you.
Right.
And my wife comes from Indonesia. She's a Catholic growing up in Indonesia. She had to wear a religious identity card or carry a religious identity card where the cops would stop her and beat her up and take her money because she was Catholic and not wearing the hijab. And that's like the moderate Muslim country.
Right.
So like, let's cut the bullshit. Let's call this as it is. And let's think very seriously about who do we admit into the country? How do we admit them in here? And I realized that one of the guys was a radicalized dude who was who was basically from a wealthy family in Phoenix. But we should be monitoring these people on Twitter. We should be engaging them. We should be reporting them to the government if necessary. And we should really be doing some hardcore surveillance. And what I find so objectionable is it seems like our Justice Department is obsessed with following veterans and following all these like far-right extremist groups. And most of the far-right extremist groups that I know are people who are who are the hate groups like Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer's a portly, short little guy. It's like
he's a researcher.
Yeah, he's a researcher. He's a nerd. And if they're coming for the nerds, as a nerd myself, I'm kind of a little.
You start to get scared.
Start to get a little scary.
Well, one problem with pinning it all on immigration is I looked up something like all attacks, including 9/11. I was going to say the 10 big attacks since 9/11, but actually you can include 9/11 in this, and it's all Westerners radicalized Westernly.
Well, some of them have failed, right? Like the Times Square bomber.
Right, I'm talking about since 9/11. And 9/11, one of the main architects was this guy who, it's impossible to remember their fucking names, but he was...
Just Joe. Call him Joe.
The Hedgehog. I like when they come up with funny names. And I honestly think that's a good tactic, by the way, is funny nicknames.
Oh, absolutely. If you were a jihadi, you'd be...
you'd hate that. But he was freed with the Air India hostage taking.
Sure.
And he was in jail because he had kidnapped a bunch of Americans in, I forget where, India or Pakistan. So he was in jail. He got freed after they took the Air India flight hostage, the entire plane. He came out, started working with bin Laden, and helped architect. He was a primary architect of the whole thing.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. That was the guy. KSM, right?
I'm not sure.
Maybe, yeah.
You're talking about the fat guy in the undershirt with the frizzy hair?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, actually, I think I am.
No, I'm talking about a different guy. But anyway, you go to the London bombing, you go to the Boston Marathon bombing, and when you look up these guys, they've got fucking British accents, and they went to school in Wales.
But most of them are ethnically the religion, right? So like the dudes who were from Dagestan, the Tsarnaev brothers, they were like going and reading Howard Zinn, but they were Chechen, Dagestani, Muslim types.
But that's not. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be your parents coming with their dogmatic old ways, and you laugh and go, "You're not going to believe this, but we have to go in the back door because my mom's Turkish and blah blah blah."
Yeah, they went punk, right? They went the other direction.
They went American.
And
now the kids are more radical than the parents.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, and they're all like that University of Alabama chick who was like, who left University of Alabama, who was a Yemeni, and is now fighting with ISIS and tweeting and putting pictures of herself with jihad. By the way, the thing that's really funny to me is they all put up like pictures of the black flag of Al Qaeda or like some ISIS stuff on their social media profiles. It's like,
yeah,
it's like if ever there were a time where you would just round these people up, like that would be like the simplest.
Well, it's
way
like
to do
having
it.
a Nazi flag on your web page if they had them back in 1942. Now,
just
I'm
weird.
not saying it should be illegal. I'm all for free speech again, but we have to put everything in context. We're at war with Islam. A lot of people deny that even, and you are parading around in the enemy's garb. Like you're driving our taxis, you're in our administration. Can you imagine Germans driving around your taxis in 1942? Germans in the...
We rounded up a whole bunch of Germans who just happened to be engineers, happened to be in the U.S. at the time, or members of the American Nazi Party, or 100,000 of them, I think they were rounded up. And some of them were just like, yeah, I think that Hitler guy's okay. Like they didn't know about the Holocaust or anything.
Right.
And they were all kind of sent to refugee camps or to basically